Hi, welcome back to the Storehouses of Heaven Bible Study with me, Mary Cremo. We are in Genesis 3, verse 17 through 19. And to Adam he said, "Because you have listened to the voice of your wife, and have eaten of the tree of which I commanded you, you shall not eat of it. Cursed is the ground because of you. In pain you shall eat of it all the days of your life. Thorns and thistles it shall bring forth for you, and you shall eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your face you shall eat bread, till you return to the ground. For out of it you were taken, for you are dust, and to dust you shall return." Okay, so because of his disobedience, because of his sin, he now has to fight to accomplish any kind of work. So work used to be a lot easier. There were no thorns and there were no thistles, and it was not going to be painful to tend a garden. It was not going to be too hard to work in a garden. But because of sin, because of disobedience, because we fell, thorns now grow. Blackberry bushes, rose bushes, they now have thorns. Mesquite bushes in Texas, and some of the really amazing desert foliage, they have crazy thorns. And that used to not be. Thorns they came into being after sin. And now the sweat of Adam's brow, the sweat of people's brow, is what it's going to take to get to just simply eat, where that never used to be the case. From dust you were taken, and you are dust, and to dust you shall return. Earlier I had mentioned how I really thought it was very precise where God told Moses that he created Adam, out of which ground, and then where the Garden of Eden was created. The reason I think that it is really important and really fascinating is that when you look at Joel Kramer's video on Finding Eden, where it probably had been located, the dirt is basically the same color as those who are in the Middle East, the Mediterranean area. And I find that very, very, very important, because God created people with melanin. So let's say somebody says that I'm a white person. I'm not actually white. I'm not the same color as a white sheet of paper or a white paper towel or whatever. I'm not white. I actually have color to my skin. And somebody who's black is generally not black. It's a different level of melanin. They have just, it's like a sliding scale on your color corrector for your phone pictures and videos, where you can make it a little darker, make it a little lighter. You can change the shade and the color. But God created us with melanin. And the reason he chose that particular color is the perfect, like, sunscreen. It's the perfect way to receive that perfect melanin skin level, receives the sun's rays and turns it into energy in a really healthy, beautiful way. Those with lighter, fairer skin, like such as myself, I burn more easily, and it's harder to keep my skin from having cancer and all this stuff. And then you have somebody with darker melanin, they don't receive as much of the vitamin D and all the good nutrients that come from the sun. It's more challenging. So somebody right in the middle is actually very, very perfectly created. And so I just find that very cool to think about how God even thought about that. But, just because we have different melanin in our skin does not mean that, we are of a race. We are all the same race. We are all the same blood. We came from Adam. We came from Eve. And because of sin, now we have to strive and we have to toil and we have pain. Pain was not ever introduced until sin. We never hear of it mentioned. Cancer didn't come. Illness didn't come. Sunburn didn't come until after sin. Just striving and trying, sweating of your brow just to get bread, just to have your basic foods. I like to think that when Adam and Eve were walking and talking with God in the cool of the day before sin happened, that God was telling them how to, properly tend a garden, how to make food out of the garden. So how to make bread. Because here, for the very first time, we're hearing bread being mentioned. Not just eating from the fruit of a tree. We're hearing about bread. So you take it from there to assume that they're processing their foods. They already know how to, or they are about to know how to process food and make bread. And bread takes multiple ingredients and it takes a rising agent. And so I have to wonder how much God taught Adam and Eve and how much knowledge so much knowledge been lost since the fall of mankind. And keep in mind that God created us perfectly, highly intelligent, highly gorgeous in the very beginning. I mean, they were perfect specimens physically, mentally, emotionally. They were unsullied until sin. And so you have to keep in mind that instead of evolution, which says, oh, we started as nothing and we evolved into something wonderful, it's actually the opposite. We were created with high intelligence, with extreme capabilities, with crazy physical abilities. And it has devolved. We have devolved. We have lost that information in our DNA, and it has fallen off as we go because it is a sin-filled, fallen world. And sin brings death. It brings deterioration. I apologize how I'm pronouncing it. It is not life growing. It is decreasing. So our intelligence has gone down. People are just blown away by the Great Pyramid in Egypt, by the Sphinx, by the pyramids found throughout the entire world, by the computers that are found at the bottom of the ocean that were calculating the stars and the seasons, and just how highly technological people were before we realized it. That's because we were not monkeys. We were never monkeys. We were created by God in the image of God to be like God. And we were highly intelligent because of that. And I've met so many people who are so intelligent. And they're like, oh yeah, I'm doing drugs. I'm doing all this stuff because I just don't want my brain working so hard and so fast. And I'm just like, can you imagine if you put that brain to use? What you could do instead of, doing these drugs that damage your brain and make it quieter. What if you actually applied yourselves? These are people who are very intelligent doctors, very intelligent, high-powered people who have all this capability, and they just throw it away because they're lazy or they're tired of using their brains or whatever. They're not using it to its fullest extent. And I find that very sad. But the capability is still there for so many if you just apply yourself. So just try, basically. So sin has caused a lot of a lot of failure, not growth. It has gone down, not up. And that is, our world is a ticking clock. It has a set time. And when that time is done, God's going to take his people and hang on to them and keep them safe while he just wipes everything away and starts again. I apologize for this being a little bit longer and for being late on putting this one up. I have been having some major challenges going on, so I'm going to try to do better. I appreciate your patience with me, and I hope that in the meantime, you are blessed.